Hi everyone, this is Paystone and welcome to this new BuildCraft video. Again, today we are going to see a preview of BuildCraft 6.1, and this is a very special preview here because this is the first video of BuildCraft with the migration from MJ to Redstone Flux. Because this is quite a recent change and it's quite an intrusive modification in the code base, this preview will not lead to an actual BuildCraft release. While preparing the video, I identified a few bugs that need to be fixed. But anyway, let's get started and let's see what's cooking, what are the new features that are in process of being implemented beyond that shift of energy model from MJ to RF. So the first thing I wanted to show is two new robots that interact with liquids. This first robot that I'm going to place right here is just a pump robot. I'm placing it here, and it's going to look for any liquid around, and it's going to pump it. So here it's pumping some water, as you can tell, and then it's going to provide said liquid to a place where we're accepting the liquid. So here it's in a tank. As you may expect, there's a whole whole set of triggers and actions that allow to say I accept liquids in, I accept liquids out. You can tell that there's some bugs in the graphics here. I don't know what the background is, purple here or blue here. That's something I'll be looking at later. But anyway, you see the idea. Here I'm, if there is space for fluid, I'm accepting fluids from robots, and if there are fluids in the tank, then I'm going to provide fluids for robots as well. So the provide fluid action is going to be exploited by this guy, which is the tank robot. This one is just the pump, and the tank robot will transfer fluid from one place that provides fluids to another place that accepts fluids. So here I've set up another tank here, which says that I accept water if there is space, and I don't want to be interacting with pump robots, just for the sake of the demonstration. And I hope that this will work. The robots can carry up to 4 buckets of water. Let's see. It's a little bit buggy. Let me add some more to see. Maybe it's just because there's not enough water in the thing. So when that works, and again I said there are some issues on these versions due to the rather intrusive changes that happened very recently. But when that works, this robot takes the water from there and puts it over there, and that's so annoying. Well, this used to work like a couple of months ago, weeks ago. Alright, well, let's leave that a rest, and this will be for me to fix later. Anyway, that was an attempt at showing free interacting robots. That's actually not the most exciting changes of this release, if you expect, except the change of fluid model, of energy model, sorry. One of the things that I meant to implement for a long time is a better way to filter items. If you take, let's say here, if you take a regular diamond pipe and say you want to filter on wood, okay, well, you need to take all the kind of woods that you have, like here, jinglewood, birchwood, spruce wood, etc., and you would need to place them all into the filter, right? So here I'm placing one, and then I will have to place the second one, etc. Other mods, they're going to provide other kind of foods which will not be taken into account, so that's a problem. The other problem is that here I've got a limit of the number of items I can filter with. This thing is not sensible to ores. It's complicated to filter by object kind, if you will, and this is true for this filter, but this is true for everything. Like for example, if I had a here a station, right? And then let's place where are there? Here, if I place a gate, and let's say I want to say to robots that if there are space in inventory, I want to accept mouth. I want to accept items, and I want to accept any kind of food. Well, here I just have 3 boxes where I can tell that, so it's just 3 kind of food that I can accept, and the list goes on and on and on and on. There are workarounds, but they are not completely satisfactory. What I really need is some way to list a bunch of items, basically, and I want to be able to list them maybe by category or maybe by something else. So this version of BuildCraft introduces the notion of list, and in a list, if I manage to get one, here we go, in a list you can tell that I've got this slightly more complex interface which will allow me to add a bunch of items. First of all, I can list items just by placing them within the UI here. So here I've listed 2 pieces of food, and clicking on them I can remove them. But what I'm going to want to tell it here is filter any kind of food. So for that I'm placing the wood in this very location, and here I have an expansion option available to me. The first one is just trying to expand by item kind, and the second one is expanding by ore kind. Depending on the item, depending on the block that you're working with, one or the other may work better. For example, if I click on here, I have various kind of food that get added automatically to the list. If I click here, where's my map? Here I have less. So here you can tell that the filter by ore, or the expansion by ore, works better than just the heuristic that we're using for this kind of expansion here. If I manage to get back my system, which is quite slow right now. Let me pause it for a while and come right back. Alright, I don't know why I got this slowdown, but as I said, there are some annoying bugs in this version. Actually, let me get rid of the robots, because they may, as they get crazy over there, they may cause some problems. Here we go. Okay, so anyway, back to our lists. So here I've created a list, and we said that ore was working better in this case, but sometimes you better use the heuristic that looks for items that are alike. And I'm going to name this list so that I can remember what it is, and then you can see that in my inventory I've got this list which is written, which is filtering wood. And now I can use this thing here and say, instead of filtering by actual items, I'm going to filter on the list. So I'm placing the list here. List says wood, and as you will see, if I place any kind of wood, it's really annoying, my recording system hides the mouse, so I'm getting lost. Let's take a piece of that, and a piece of something else. Let's say a sponge, right? And this wood, right location. This other piece of wood, different kind, right location. The sponge, different location. So this list, they can be used anywhere in BuildCraft where you expect a list of items, where you expect a filter that is on various kind of pipes, on gates, or other things like that. Let's carry on. The last thing I want to show is composite blueprints. Now, if you are familiar with the forum, the BuildCraft forum, you'll see that people are starting to create massive structures in blueprints, and often the limit of the blueprints, which is a 64 by 64 by 64 blocks, is too small. So this version introduces a new kind of blueprint, or an extension of blueprints if you will, which is composite blueprint. I'm going to be able to aggregate blueprints together to create a larger structure. So each blueprint will be a piece of a greater blueprint, if you will. Let's see one simple example here. Okay, granted this is a very small structure, I didn't want to show anything massive, but you could imagine that those two architects here are recording a large piece of the world. Presumably the combination of those two things is going to be beyond the usual blueprint limits. Now I want to create a blueprint aggregating those two pieces. What I'm going to do is to take a construction mark that we've seen in the previous episode, right? And if I right click here, you see that the construction mark changes color. It means that it recorded that architect, and if I want to cancel this, I can just click somewhere else. Anyway, I'm recording this architect, and then I'm going to go to the other one, and I'm recording it like that. And you can see that there's a kind of a blue laser that goes from this architect to this architect here, and you can say that there is an end with those let's say those stairs here, the bigger end, which means that this is the main location and that's the secondary location. This is the main blueprint and this is the secondary blueprint. Now what I'm going to do is to take a blueprint here, and that's not what I meant to do. Give it a name, let's say Composite, and I'm going to write this blueprint, okay, and I'm going to build it somewhere. Let's see, I'm going to need the usual one engine, one builder, and with the engine as usual I'm going to need that redstone torch. Here we go. Okay, placing the engine next to the builder, activating power, and then placing the blueprint. So as you can tell, we're starting to build the first section, and once this section is done, we automatically move to the next one. And you can have an arbitrary number of sections. I put limits in the distance between two blueprints, so or two sections, if you will, so they cannot be further than 64 blocks. But right now there's no limit to the number of sections that you have in your blueprints. But wait, there is even more. Let's say now that what I want to do is to compose with multiple times the same blueprint. You know, like if you create a town, you will need to export the same thing a number of times. So I'm going to take the same blueprint and I'm going to create a new area. I think I still need an area in this version of BuildCraft to activate building. So anyway, I'm going to create something very simple here. Okay, architect table. But I'm not going to place anything here. What I'm going to do is to place, let me cancel this, construction markers around, like one here. You can see, and you see that there's a little stripe thingy that gives the direction, and let's place another one here, and maybe, alright, let's get crazy, one there and one there. So now I've placed 4 construction marks around this architect. What I want is to build stuff starting on those construction marks. So I'm going to need to place blueprints on them. Let me take the structure I just built. That's going to be good enough. 2, 3, and 4. Need 4 copies of this. And here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright. Now I'm placing those blueprints on those markers that I placed in the world here. So one here, one there, and okay. So we're almost done. What I'm going to say now is that this is going to be the main bit of the blueprint, and once it's built, is area here, which happens to be empty, is going to build these 4 other ones. right? So as before, I'm selecting the center and then selecting the next one. 2, 3, and 4. I can now record that whole structure into a blueprint. I'm going to call it, let's say, Composite 2. Alright. And now that I've got that, let me go a little bit further away. Okay. And setting up the build. And now, as you can tell, so there was nothing to build on the first section. So the builder went onto the second section, is building the structure a first time. Okay, we're going to leave it do its thing. So you can tell that it's really it's more than composite. Actually, it's really a hierarchy of blueprints that I can create, and I can have main section that have subsections that have themselves subsections and so on and so forth. So let's wait up until this thing is finished, just so that we prove the point. Almost there. And then, okay, well, we're done with this part, and we're moving to the next part, and this will build eventually those 4 sub blueprints that we selected earlier. So anyway, that was it for this version of BuildCraft, BuildCraft 6.1 preview. Again, important information on this: this is the first version of BuildCraft that is not running on MJ, that is running on RF, and this is going to be from now on the energy used by BuildCraft. There is a lot more things to come, in particular stabilization of this whole thing, so that we can release it hopefully in a couple of weeks, again as a pre-alpha. But so far, thank you very much for having watched the video. I hope to talk to you soon. Bye bye.